Yo, what is up, everyone? Got a melee DPS Mythic Plus tier list for 10.1.7. This patch has been a banger so far, in my opinion, and honestly, I'm enjoying so many different specs in the game right now. I'm going to give you my opinion on which specs are meta and which of them aren't meta. This is based off of my opinion, though, with plugging Mythic Plus and up to plus 20 keys, by either playing some of these specs, playing with them, watching some high-level gameplay from some of these specs, looking into Raider IO score, comparison of their total damage, how easy they are to play and pug with, and just their total toolkit. As usual, part of the reason some of these specs might be ranked so high too is because of how well they complement the other meta specs in the game right now, and just how valuable their utility is in certain dungeons, if not all of the dungeons. Also, this tier list is just comparing melee to melee, not including ranged DPS, so keep that in mind, okay, because it would change a lot if I included both of them. I always encourage you to play whatever you want, though, no matter how the spec is performing. After all, this is a game, so I think you should enjoy it. That's the biggest thing. Every one of these specs can do up to plus 22, plus 23, plus 24 keys. But, you know, this is only going to really matter in the highest and the top 1% to play. So, again, play whatever you enjoy. But for the people who love tier lists, like me, love topping the damage meters, or just carrying your team with the utility, this is the tier list for you. For those of you that are new to my tier list, let's explain the rankings real quick. We got gods here. These are the best specs in the game. Okay, they're overperforming for sure. Probably need to be nerfed in all honesty, but you're seeing them, at least one of them in like every single key you're doing. They're completing the highest keys, top of the top keys. They're insane. S tier is in a really good spot. I think they're performing exceptionally well. Don't have a lot of weaknesses. Bring a lot to their team, whether that's utility that they're bringing, total damage, AOE, single target, funnel damage, anything like that. But they're performing exceptionally. A maybe has a little more weaknesses. Maybe doesn't bring the same utility as the S tier specs do, or God tier, or maybe the damage, anything like that. But still a solid spec, still performing really high keys. B is really good overall, honestly. Just they're lacking in something. Maybe that's tuning, maybe they need a rework, maybe they are falling down in damage, whether that's single target or AoE. Something needs to change, or maybe just weaker defensively, something like that. But definitely weaker on the spectrum. C definitely needs some help, maybe some tuning changes or a rework to see them bump up a little bit. They're underperforming in terms of whether that's utility, AoE damage, single target damage, or probably all three if they're down in this low range. Trash is awful. These are the worst specs in the game. They need a rework. They need some crazy tuning to be viable, and you literally can't even play them. There are no specs down here right now, thank God. Blizzard's done a really good job about that. Kick things off, let's go with Enhancement Shaman. They're going to S tier, guys. They're fantastic. They are the best melee DPS in the game right now. Again, I'm just comparing melee to melee. They're performing the highest keys, okay? If it weren't for a few other specs, range specs, they would probably be top 3 DPS specs in the game. They're fantastic, guys. They do great single target damage, great AoE damage, you got great funnel damage. Those will give cooldowns for every single encounter, and that feels awesome. It feels incredibly satisfying to play. You have a high skill ceiling with this specialization, but once you get it down, it'll pay off. If you're looking to pick up Enhancement Shaman too, like, there's a couple different builds out there. One that's a little bit easier for Mythic Plus, and then there's another one that's a little bit harder, the Elementalist build. But if you get that one down, it's super fun. That's the one I've been playing lately. It's a blast. But again, Shaman's got quick interrupts, which is great for Mythic Plus. There's a lot of mobs you can like tie down with that, and having a short interrupt is incredibly helpful. You've got Bloodlust, obviously you need that. AoE stun, you've got a knock-up, you've got group healing with Ancestral Guidance, which is, it was nerfed, but it's still really good. You got Reincarnation too, which is great. Got okay survivability. It's not the best in the game, but it is decent. You have Cleanse, Deal with Afflicted, which is always super helpful, especially for your healer. And if you're pugging, for sure. And then you can deal with Incorporeals by yourself really easily. At least one every single time. Sometimes by yourself if you need. But they're just incredibly good. Their utility is fantastic. And they're just really fun to play. And in terms of damage, holy shit. They're insane. Let's go with Rogues next, okay? We're going to put... let's start with Assassination. We're going to put Assassination C, okay? I'm pretty sure you guys could have guessed it. They got a buff recently. I think it was by 5% or something like that. It was not what we needed to see. I think they need a rework, which they are getting a rework in 10.2, so I'm really excited about that. I think all the rogue specializations are going to do a little bit better. Well, let's jump into like just the rogue overall. You know, each rogue spec has a lot of survivability. Okay, your survivability is freaking bonkers. You got evasion, shroud, vanish, utility. Is wild with tricks of the trade. You've got concealment, you got blind, you've got gouge, you got quick interrupts, you got insane control over mobs. Every single rogue specialization can literally they can tie down one mob or two mobs if you need that, especially if you're pushing into higher keys, or maybe you're pugging, or you're not really sure what's going on. If you're a rogue, and I'm doing a 0 to hero challenge with my sub rogue, so I'm learning this right now, but if you're a rogue, I mean, I'm not kidding, you can literally tie down a mob by yourself, if not two. I can stun one, I can I can interrupt. I can stun another one. I mean, I literally have so much shit for that. It's incredible. But in terms of damage overall right now for Assassination, they're underperforming so much, especially compared to their counterparts, Sub and Outlaw. But just compared to a lot of these other DPS specs, DPS, they're underperforming. Radar IO, they're much lower than a lot of these other specializations. Again, we hope to see this change with the 10.2 rework, but right now they definitely belong in C tier still. Man, I was really hoping. This is my favorite rogue specialization for sure. Next up, let's go Sub. Sub belongs since S tier, okay? Again, you have all the same utilities I just mentioned. Your survivability is nuts, but their damage is crazy. Your single target damage is wild. Your AoE damage is wild. I'm learning a lot about this specialization right now in the 0 to hero, and it's been a blast. Honestly, the specialization I still think has a really high skill ceiling, but if you get it down, it more than makes up for it. Almost always Sub Rogue, I see it can be pushing high keys, and that's probably because of their utility, their toolkit that they have. But they've always been good just from their utility, but their damage has always been somewhat there, and that's awesome. And not only that, but in 10.2, that's going to even rise. I mean, their rework looks insane so far. Obviously, we're early on in that right now, and they're receiving feedback still. But if it keeps going this way, Sub Rogue is going to be still probably S tier, but it 100% belongs here, just in terms of Radar IO score. But this spec is a beast, without a doubt. Outlaw. To Outlaw next. Outlaw, I'm putting in A tier, guys. I think Outlaw is performing really, really freaking well. That is great damage, great single target damage, great AoE damage. I haven't played with a lot, actually, and I've been more into Assassination and Sub Rogue recently, for sure. But I played a lot back in Season 1 of Dragonflight, and then I also played it in Shadowlands a ton. From what I've heard, though, what I've watched, it looks like it's relatively difficult to play. I wouldn't say it's the hardest specialization. I would say it's actually easier than definitely both of these specializations. But it has really good damage. And again, you're bringing all the same utility that you have as Rogue. So I think it belongs in A tier. It's performing really well. In terms of Radar IO, it's behind Sub, but it's insane. It's performing so good. Definitely belongs in A, without a doubt. Let's hit up Warriors next. Okay, Fury I am putting with Sub, actually right below Sub, I think, just because of utility. That alone, I think the utility that Sub brings compared to Warrior is just it's a whole nother level. But Warrior is a freaking beast. Again, if you're bringing these melee heavy comps, I always like to bring, like, if you have a melee heavy comp, have an Enhanced Shaman and Warrior put together, it's just so freaking nice. But for Warrior, you've got Battle Shout. It's just great for, again, for physical damage comps. You got Incapacitating Shout, you got Storm Bolt, Rallying Cry, Wrecking Throw to deal with the Incorporeal if you need to, Defensive Stance for heavy incoming damage, which is really helpful, and Spell Reflect. Fury's just really tanky. You've got a lot of self-heals with Bloodthirst and his Frenzy Regeneration. Survivability is really good, and it's honestly, it's very easy to play. I would say it's incredibly beginner-friendly. But it has a higher skill ceiling, I think, but it's not as high as some of these other specializations, but it's just performing really well. In terms of overall DPS, they are one of the highest damaging specs in the entire game right now, without a doubt, in Mythic Plus. You can check u.gg for that. It's crazy how good they're performing. But I just can't... And they're similar in Radar IO to Sub Rogue right now, but I think just the utility you bring for Sub Rogue, especially if you're pugging, it can't be beaten, especially when you're comparing it to a Fury Warrior. But Fury Warrior belongs in S tier without a doubt. It's insane. I'm loving mine right now. Arms Warrior, we're gonna put in A tier as well. They're actually doing really good. In terms of average, like IO score right now in the highest keys. Actually, there's one guy. I don't know his name. I think it's a Chinese player from China or something like that. You can check it on Radar IO. His Radar IO score is bonkers, dude. He's like 200 above every other Arms Warrior in the game right now, which is insane. Actually, he's above even Fury Warriors. But the average IO score for Fury Warriors is like 100 score or so higher than Arms at the moment. And again, that's not the only thing I'm comparing. I think you just have better survivability and better damage overall than Arms. Whoever that player is, I mean, shout out to you, bro. You are killing it. You're insane as a player, and obviously Arms can perform well. They belong in A tier. Look at the score. It's like 3780 or 3800 from that guy from Arms. The rest are around 3600. But it's very fun to play. It does really good. It does everything basically Fury does. It just doesn't do it quite as good. In all honesty, I think it's a really fun spec. It's been my favorite for a really long time of the two. But Fury is just performing better at the moment. Next up is Ret Pally, and we're going to put at the top of A tier. Guys, in terms of Radar IO, they're performing so freaking well. But you know what a Paladin brings. You've got Blessing of Protection, you got Battle Res, you got Blessing of Sacrifice, you got good survivability with self-heals and off-healing for your group, Bubble for so many specific scenarios, Lay on Hands, Cleanse for Afflicted, Repentance for, or Turn Evil, honestly, for Incorporeal. They're insane. You literally just bring so much utility, and right now, Holy Paladin is doing really good. I think that's what takes that Ret Paladin spot, but they're still performing so freaking well. Their damage is insane in both AoE and single target. If you know how to play them well, you can carry groups in Mythic Plus, especially pugging. And honestly, that's any Paladin specialization at the moment. I think Holy obviously does it because they're broken as hell right now, but Prot does it too. It is one of the best specialization, best classes to carry your group in Mythic Plus, in my opinion, in the entire game. You can look on 8radar.io. They're performing so freaking well. They belong in the top A spot for sure. I don't think they're performing quite as the same as Fury Warrior, Sub Rogue, or Enhance. The two utilities they bring along with their damage right now is insane, and then Fury Warrior's damage is beating Ret right now, which is crazy to see because you see Ret, and they got buffed recently, and they're yanking aggro from you, but I think they're just slightly lower than that. I would say like very high A tier, maybe low S tier, but right now performing really well. So if you like them, keep playing them for sure. Let's do Feral Druid next, guys. Feral Druid is for sure going into A tier. I'm actually going to put it above Arms. It's freaking insane. Right now, you've got Guardian Druid, which is broken as hell, but that plays a part in what you're bringing it into these higher keys, especially if you're pugging. Usually, most people don't bring in more than one of the same class or specialization unless it's really broken. Mark of the Wild is like really nice right now, especially if you're pushing higher keys with that verse. It's just incredibly helpful. So if you're bringing a Guardian Druid, you might not bring a Feral, but they're performing exceptionally well. People don't give Feral enough credit. They're always the underdog, and I don't really get it because they're really fun to play. I have a blast every time I play them. You do incredible damage. I honestly think they have a very high skill ceiling, but it's not that hard to pick up. Some of you might not agree with me. I know some of you haven't in the past. But I'm telling you, Feral is fun to play. If you never played him, definitely do that. But you bring Mark of the Wild, like I said. You bring Battle Res, you've got Stampeding Roar, you've got Root with Ursul's Vortex, you got a Knockback, you got Incapacitating Roar if you need, you have Hibernate for Incorporeals, you got good mobility, Soothe, you've got a Cleanse for Afflicted. You literally are just a utility toolkit. It's insane. Your single target damage is pretty damn good, but your AoE is where you really shine. Your bleeds are freaking nuts. Not only that, but they're looking really good for 10.2. Really excited for that for Season 3. But right now, definitely going in A tier. I would say they're not quite to the same level as Outlaw Rogue, especially just with the utility and maybe survivability that they have. But Feral has good survivability too. I think it does everything Outlaw does. I think Outlaw just does it a little bit better right now. But Feral, great spot. If you like Feral, keep playing it. They're a blast. Windwalker Monk, let's definitely put up here. I'm gonna put them in. Yeah, I'm gonna put them in low A, guys. We don't see enough of this specialization. This class is the least played class in the entire game. Windwalker Monk is the least played DPS spec, I think, in the entire game, or it's way down there. I don't know that for sure, but they're insane. Again, they're really good if you bring in physical damage comps, heavy Mythic Plus comps. So if you have a buddy or guildie who likes to play Warrior or Enhancement Shaman, having Windwalker Monk with that is really helpful. You got Mystic Touch to increase physical damage just for your group, so that's why it's so good. You got Leg Sweep for AoE stun. You got Ring of Peace. You got Paralysis for certain mobs or Incorporeal. You got insane mobility, Touch of Death, Quick Interrupt. Get good survivability between Fortifying Brew, Diffuse Magic, and Dampen Harm, and you got Cleanse for Afflicted. They're a utility monster. Very comparable, honestly, to, I would say, Rogue, in my opinion. But their damage toolkit right now, really good in single targets, which we saw that lack a lot in Shadowlands, right? And I think even in Dragonflight Season 1. But now, their single target damage is pretty freaking well, and their AoE is bonkers, guys. It's so insane to see it. When I play the Windwalker Monk, I feel like everything just dies. They belong in A tier without a doubt, and their IO score proves that as well. So let's go Havoc DH next and put Havoc at the bottom of A tier right now, okay? Havoc is in a really good spot. Honestly, I think a lot of people, like, Havoc has always been one of the, like, most played specializations in the game. Right now, they're not because of their momentum build. A lot of people hate playing it. I actually really enjoy it. I think it's added a lot of skill to the specialization. They didn't feel like it was always there. And some of you might not agree with me. And it isn't always fun to play. And I can't tell you how many people have died, even me, fell rushing to get momentum and into a mob or something you should be standing in, or tank frontal, and you die, and then everyone blames you, and it's a mess. But I think it's fun to play. I think it has a higher skill ceiling now, without a doubt, and momentum is definitely the best build you're playing right now. It is getting a rework in 10.2, so keep that in mind. But you bring Chaos Brand for increased magical damage, so if you're bringing, a Fire Mage, a Shadow Priest, Augmentation Evoker, Probably an augmentation evoker, but you know, some of their magical damage comps, a warlock, something like that. It's nice to have chaos brand for that, even if it's mythic plus and just 5 people in there. It's still good. You got a single target stun. You got 2 AoE stuns with, you know, chaos nova and sigil of misery. You got quick CC for incorporeals, just imprison them. It's super freaking nice. You got good survivability with self healing, darkness, and blur. Which is freaking awesome. You also have Netherwalk, but you lose some damage from that if you take that out of the build. They're doing really good. Honestly, I haven't seen a lot of them lately. I think we'll see that change, obviously, with the rework in 10.2. I'm definitely going to be jumping on mine because their tier set looks freaking awesome, guys. If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you check out the video. It's on the channel right now. Their tier set is awesome. You're on fire. It's flames. They've never done something like this for your helmet. It looks incredible. I actually haven't seen the tier set bonus, what it does yet, but they're taking feedback. I'm sure that might change in the future. But Havoc DH, definitely A tier. Without a doubt, okay? No doubt in my mind. Survival Hunter. I'm putting high B tier, okay? Okay, the reason for this, I think Survival Hunter is very good, and if you look on IO right now, they're actually performing very well. Their DPS is solid, okay? DPS is very solid. It just doesn't... I was really hoping that Rogue got a rework. I was hoping Hunter got a rework. Actually, Rogue and Hunter were actually my biggest ones, but Demon Hunter makes sense too. I'm hoping Hunter's next because I think they need some significant changes to be brought up here. You've got great group utility. You can help out your team a ton. You've got Freeze Trap, which is really good in a lot of scenarios and Mythic and a lot of the dungeons. You got Bloodlust, you got Blinding Shot, Sentinel Owl if you need it. Doing pretty good damage with both AoE and single target. Like I said, they just need better survivability. This is the only weakness. When you start to push higher keys, they will fall over. Your cooldowns are too freaking. Your DPS, your defensive cooldowns are too freaking long. Your turtle shell, your what is it, natural mending, I think. It's on a 2-minute CD. I think your turtle's on a 3 or 4 minute. That's just too long. If you have those, or if you add another healing cooldown or some kind of defensive, some kind of sturdiness, resistance to physical damage or magic damage, something like that, I think it would help out a lot. Again, you have a lot of survivability, you have a lot of utility you can to get you out of certain scenarios, but when you start getting to higher keys, it feels like you just kind of fall over. But their DPS is insane. If you like survival, definitely play it. You're still performing really freaking well. You're completing some, I think, plus 24, plus 25, maybe plus 26 keys right now, which says insane. And that just goes to show you that, I mean, these other specializations are just performing better overall in terms of DPS or defensives or anything like that, but that just goes to show you how good the balancing, I think, is. I know we're not seeing that right now because of how broken 5 specializations are in the game still, which I'm hoping that will change soon. But there is a lot of really good specializations in the game, and you can play a lot of what you enjoy. You just got to get into a group, but, you know, good luck. Let's go Frosty K next. Frosty K, I'm putting in B. I'm actually going to put below Survival Hunter. I think it's performing pretty good. You know, we see this in Raid. If you guys have checked out any like Raid DPS tier lists or anything like that, or rankings or total overall DPS right now, Frost and Unholy are freaking nuts. They're broken in Raid. They're insane. They're like top 3, top 4 specializations, including ranged. They're great targets for Augmentation Evoker as well. But holy shit, they're so freaking good. But Mythic Plus, it is a different story. Again, though, you've got Death Grip. You've got A-Bomb Limb for pulling in, which is really nice. You got AMS, which is great for survivability. You got Death's Advance, which is kind of a little bit of mobility. AMZ, you've got a Battle Res. You got Death Strike for self-healing. You're really sturdy for just a melee DPS with Frost and Unholy. Unfortunately, you can't help with Afflicted, but you can deal with Incorporeal with Shackle and Dead, which is really nice. Glad they changed that. But I think they're performing pretty well. They do okay. They do pretty good in damage. I would say if there was a ranking between B and C, I'd probably put Frost there. I would say Survival Hunter is definitely better than Frost, but I think Frost is, you can still play. You can still perform in some really high keys. I think they're performing. I think Survival is a little bit higher in IO overall, and definitely in overall damage for sure. But Frost is doing exceptional. They got good single target and good AoE. I think their cooldowns feel a little clunky. I've played quite a bit of Frost this season, and I think they feel fun. They feel very satisfying. I feel like I have something to press for most mobs, but sometimes they just feel out of whack. I don't know what that is. Maybe a DK rework would be nice for that. I've heard a lot of other Death Knights too, that main Death Knight, say that they need some changes for sure. I'm hoping they do, without a doubt. Hopefully that's up next. You know, Hunter and DK next. That's what I'm going for. All right, last one. Let's go Unholy DK. Put in C tier. I'm going to put it below Assassination, but it's right there with it. I think, again, you're very sturdy. You bring everything that I just mentioned for Frost DK. Both Death Knights are very sturdy options. In Raid, they're performing so freaking well. But, guys, if you look at u.gg, okay, I believe that's the site. Check out that website. They'll give you the total DPS like rankings, what they're performing overall. Man, Unholy and Assassination are so far below everybody. It's crazy in Mythic Plus. They're AoE. From what I've seen, I haven't played a lot of Unholy. Again, I've been playing Frost and Blood. Pushed it, KSM 21 or whatever, 22 with Frost and Blood. And I didn't play a lot of Unholy. I played a little bit, some PvP and stuff like that. But I've been watching a lot of content from them. And from what I've heard, you have to really choose between AoE and single target for them. And it's really difficult. On you got Tyrannical, Fortified Weeks and everything like that. You can spec more in AoE, but it feels clunky. Cooldowns don't feel satisfying to press. You don't have consistent damage throughput as you're going through the key. You have it in your windows, but that's it. I think their AoE need toolkit needs to change or buffed or something like that. Their top IO for this specialization is like 200 lower than almost every single specialization here. Assassination as well. That just goes to show how low they're performing right now in terms of other stuff. Again, if you like these two specializations, though, I love Assassination, and I'm sure I'll like Unholy. I'm planning on playing it next season. But it's just, they're not performing the same. You can still play them, though, if you enjoy it. Again, if you're only doing plus 20, plus 21, plus 22, plus 23 keys, play them. Play whatever you enjoy. I mean that. But they are not performing the same as these other specs in terms of DPS and just their utility they're bringing to the team. I have to rank Rogue, though, above Unholy just because of their utility alone. Rogue's utility is freaking busted. But let me know what you guys think down below. What specs you're enjoying in 10.1.7. As always, though, thank you for watching, everybody. Smash that sub button if you enjoy WoW or MMORPG content. I've got guides, tips, tier lists, and more coming out all of the time. I appreciate you, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.